Right, so let's have a look over what happened here then. So again, I think this massively came from the draft, and I mean, you do have this kind of situation where I feel like they were just consistently giving G2 Hell exactly what they wanted. Overall, I one thing I did really like about this game is the fact that Caltis didn't necessarily solo carry as hard. I mean, still did a massive amount of damage, but one of the things that I really liked about this is the fact that she opted she was still incredibly valuable, but the rest of her team actually managed to carry the game even when she wasn't just solo 1v9. So I really like that. It shows that the team has a lot of versatility and that they're not going to just get shut down by somebody targeting Caltis for like a Malzahar or something like that. So I think one of the biggest issues came with this draft. So we have Karma coming here, which obviously three-way flex makes it very rough. But then they chose to go with the Ezreal yet again, which the issue with this is you have so many counters. You have the Kai'Sa, the Jinx, the Aphelios. Like they all do really well into Aphelios, into Ezreal, sorry. And it feels like what happened here is they went, okay, it's Kaltis. She's amazing. We're going to go Ezreal and just look to try and survive laning phase. But you can't do that when you're playing into these really good players. You need to look to try and like skirmish with them and kind of fight as much as you can to kind of beat them in that kind of mechanical like skirmish. So again, they went with the Wukong and Syndra, which again not too bad. Syndra does have opportunities to do things into Karma. Unfortunately, she did opt to go with Dematerializer instead of going into Futures Market in this game, which did end up putting them into a position where she didn't have as much early game kind of ability over the wave. Karma's ultimate is it does take time to actually use again. So if she could have got that 3 minute lost chapter with Futures Market Tech Sapphire, obviously Karma's not going to be able to 100 to 0 her early. She has a control mage, so you can get that reset off, get that Futures Market with lost chapter and come back. Obviously, we give the Rek'Sai again over to somebody that's very comfortable just taking it into everything. But again, I mean, she already knew that the Wukong was showing. Again, we give the Aphelios over to Caltis. Like, I think that's a big mistake. I think probably here, you probably look to swap it out for the Varus. I think Varus is has ways to shut him down. Obviously, a lot more kind of versatile in the draft. But again, we get the Lulu come through, which puts Karma in mid, which is amazing since you've got this double enchanted to keep Aphelios alive. And then you've got really good blind again. He's got that hop, which is incredibly good. And Fiora obviously comes in. Fiora is a counter, but the issue you have here is by going the Fiora, you put your team in a position where you don't have any frontline. So because you don't have a frontline, you don't have an ability to deal with Aphelios, even though Aphelios is going to melt the frontline eventually. It just means that you don't really have that ability to kind of go all in. So now we go into the game. We have, again, they look to use this Karma for pressure to get the ward down. This is going to actually show where Wukong is. Now, the thing that they did vary at this game is the Rek'Sai went full farm, because when you look at the draft, Na doesn't really need help against Fiora. Karma doesn't need help against Syndra, and you're not opting into the 2v2 anyway. And Aphelios Lulu don't really need help into Ezreal Rel either. So you end up in a position where Rek'Sai can just hard farm all game. Hard farm, get objectives, and just win off that. So that's what we see happening here. We do still get these kind of slow pushes consistently in bot lane, which is really good. I wish we'd have focused a bit more, the observers, on bot lane, but it's okay. So here you get these slow pushes into them, and then you just look to poke them on the tower, which when you've got Calibrum and you've got a 650 range, it means it's kind of easy to do that. But again, trying to force a little bit on top. So this was actually kind of bad, because what you need to be taking note of when you're playing top lane in solo queue or in competitive is when you know that Rek'Sai is opting into full clears, which again, did we see Rek'Sai? I don't think. Yeah. Oh, no, actually, they didn't get vision of Rek'Sai. It was a really good tunnel over here to get rid of the ward. So they don't actually see that Rek'Sai is full clearing, but you know that Rek'Sai is full clearing because she hasn't shown. Actually, I'm not sure if this ward would have spotted it. I don't think it would have. So you basically, you know that Rek'Sai is looking to full clear. She gets this ward in here, and she would have looked to take Grump if it was up. But what happens now is, if you're playing Fiora, you need to know, okay, this Rek'Sai is full clearing. She's going to be ganking again around this 4-minute 30 mark if she has an opportunity to. So what you need to be doing is, you can't go for these trades where she's running the Gnar down to try and do anything, because the Rek'Sai is full clearing. And what we learned from metas like Diana and even things like Morgana when that was strong is, you have to respect the fact that this Grump is respawning. It means that their jungler is going to be in the top side of this jungle, so you shouldn't be going for those aggressive trades like that, because again, they do have the ability to, instead of just going straight to their Grump, they can vary and come up. They're not going to really lose too much on this, because again, this hasn't spawned yet, and the fact that she has a pickaxe means her clear is going to be faster on the second clear than it was on the first. So it's okay to leave the Grump up for a tiny amount of time, because again, this wolf camp is not available yet. So it's more of a lack of understanding from Vitality's top laner here, I think, around kind of when Rek'Sai can be there. Maybe it's a little bit of a bit of tilt. I mean, choosing to go Fiora into Gnar with this comp is very aggressive anyway, and yeah, she just didn't really play towards that as much as she should. But yeah, so now we get this dragon again. The Aphelios is huge up on the Ezreal, 20 CS already at 6 minutes. That's an entire kill in CS alone, and this is why you cannot pick this Ezreal in just blind positions like this and hope for the best, because you will get these hyper carries that will end up with so much more. Now, they chose to go with the Rel. I think something like a Braum would have been much better to try and peel the Rek'Sai away and the Gnar, especially because it synergizes super well, but again, didn't do that. Ended up going with the Rel instead, which I prefer Rel with things like the Orianna, stuff like that, things that can synergize really well with the kit. But again, they end up getting Herald, and Rek'Sai just goes back to another complete full clear all the jungle away, and then just play for bot. Gets this crab. This crab is really important, because obviously when the next dragon comes up, it will kind of act as vision for it. And so again, Rek'Sai just full clear and just chilling, playing full clear Rek'Sai. Like, why not? Like, if you're going to play full clear Rek'Sai, like, this Conqueror is actually better here, because again, you're not looking for these early fights with the Hail of Blades, you're just looking for that Conqueror. So really, really good there. And again, just hard farming into bot side, uses Herald yet again on bot to get Aphelios ahead. And yeah, it just kind of, they're just kind of ending up in a position where Kaltz is just allowed to do whatever she wants. Lesia with a solo kill on top lane, especially, this is even more insane, because when you have R5, if in draft the priority is going towards R5ing a solo lane, and your solo lane then dies in a 1v1 skirmish, that's a massive error, either in the drafting or in the play, which again, I do feel like this Fiora just went Fiora to try and skirmish and try and kind of play it, but just didn't respect the timers from the Rek'Sai whatsoever, and that ended up with this kind of constant kind of push and pull. So again, 24 CS, Ezreal made a little bit up, but overall still not going to matter too much. Again, it's quite hard to outsmite a Rek'Sai, because obviously your E does a large amount of true damage, so you stack the E with smite. That's why she's so good on objectives as well. When you used to see the early game jungle meta, things like, this didn't look like a hit also, but when you used to see the early jungle meta where you saw things like Rek'Sai and Olaf, and even things like Lee Sin, because the Q is execute damage, they were super oppressive because they have extra true damage on their abilities. So you can stack your smite with E once they changed smite so it wasn't level dependent, and it just means that you get that extra boost. And if you do it right, it means that it's almost impossible to actually outsmite. So this is why you see things like the Rek'Sai, Olaf, stuff like that being traded, and it was for that. Again, it didn't. The Lulu got pulled in by the R from the Rel. Now, Rel's combo is super hard to dodge, even more so if you've got Flash. Rel actually has an undodgeable combo where you can basically flash RW and you will always guarantee the W. So it's really, really good like that. But again, we see they do actually prioritize bot lane a little bit more. They managed to kill a Lulu off, but Kaltis did still manage to get a kill on the Rel because she walked back in. Now, this was an overstep by bot lane, very much so, especially considering they knew, again, the same way as I said about top side, they knew that the Wukong would have been around bot side. And they just overstepped basically. This gives Ezreal this kind of this window to potentially come back into the game and farm back up. But in general, again, there was another kill throughout mid. Rek'Sai manages to get a Q onto the Syndra, and again, so insta ult and just dead. So Rek'Sai was actually back in the way to get the tower there, but since she got the Q, she may as well go for it because it's easy. Now, another advantage that you get from Rek'Sai being able to just farm like crazy is right now Wukong still has 8 treats until he upgrades, whereas Rek'Sai only has 3. So yeah, really, really good play all round. And then again, another skirmish in the top side where like Na just manages to get another solo kill on the Fiora. She was way too tunneled on getting her ultimate off. And again, another solo kill for top lane. This is what I mean. So the first game was basically the Kaltis show, whereas this game now is other members of the team showing that they can easily step up and completely smash. So this team is, I mean, very, very good. I mean, this is why they're the favorites to win right now. I do like a good storyline, so I wouldn't mind if there was an upset somewhere, but it looks probably, I don't know. I don't really know how good the other teams are to be able to say that, but in general, yeah, really, really just good play all round. Like, again, some mistakes either way, but except for that bot lane kind of 2v2, I don't think there was that many mistakes. Again, like I said, just clearing away everything, going into Sterak's here, which, again, I think the Black Cleaver was good because you get Black Cleaver, but Phage you don't really get as much value from. But getting that Black Cleaver would have been really good because it gives Kaltis extra damage with the front to back. But I guess they decided it wasn't really worth it this game due to the fact that they don't really have that big of a front line. She'd be taking it for like Wukong Rel, which is still somewhat value, but it's not massive. But again, Infernal Soul, which very, very good, especially with this comp. Infernal Soul is just good all round. It's very, very high damage, and it just means the team fights become way easier. They did try and collapse on top here, but like they just can't really do much, especially when Aphelios are coming up just doing massive damage. Rel kind of, sorry, Rek'Sai popping off. Yeah, Monk. So Seba was in Div 1 last split, playing natives. Div 1 NLC. Again, another Rek'Sai, just complete pick. I mean, I do think some of this was Vitality just kind of mental booming a little bit. But, yeah. Overall, just some really good play all around. Again, still some mistakes. I think there was very little mistakes from the side of G2 Hell, though. This not mistakes that were potentially punishable anyway. They knew their draft. They knew they had a better draft and they just played around it. This is kind of like a ticking time bomb draft because Aphelios is always going to be strong eventually, especially when he's got double enchanters. And again, Rek'Sai just ended up completely jungle gapping this game, which again, really, really good to see. So here they just instantly take Baron. Obviously, it isn't the best gun rotation for Kaltis. I mean, she does have Flamethrower, but again, doesn't really matter too much. She is trying to use it and get it away so that she can get red-white here and then look for a fight. But, I mean, I think they could have potentially won this fight pretty hard if they just walked up. But I guess they're waiting for the Baron debuff to go away. And then again, Kaltis just absolutely mops up this positioning. So this is why you take Karma. Because the amount of movement speed that Karma can actually give, along with Lulu as well, allows Aphelios to just do this. Manages to completely space the Rel W, especially with this Ghost as well. This is why this game, Ghost is okay. Ghost is a very risky summoner spell because you opt into not having a combat spell really in the laning phase. But when you've got a Karma and a Lulu giving you that movement speed with Ghost, you could just kind of go nuts with it. So again, really, really good all round. And again, like nobody can really deal with Aphelios at this point. He has everything that he needs in order to just completely snowball the game. And again, just running into them, like hold down W, run into them, and that just kind of ends the game out. So again, really good team fight, like really just good games in general. So we'll see tomorrow how they do in the next round against another team. But yeah, this was just a bit of a stump, to be honest. Yeah.